All right, Priyanka, I've accepted your request. I think you should.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi. How are
Thank
you?
you. And I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. Am I audible to you?
Yes, yes, very clearly. Did I pronounce your name?
Okay.
Pronounce your
Yeah, it's Priyanka Sahi.
Sahi, right? All right.
Sahi, yes.
So, Priyanka, welcome to Booked for the Weekend, episode 2, and I'm really glad to have you here. We'll
It's my
do
pleasure. Glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you. So, first of all, before we head into the reading of the story, one of my favorites is by Ishika Jain. It's One Day, Two Dates, and it's a very nice one. I would like to
Hmm.
read it out, but before that, tell me, how did you come up with the idea of having a book in love in the times of online dating, and what was your idea behind it? Like, where did you come up with this particular title?
Well, firstly, because it is, like you already said, it is not a very common, like, it's not only mushy romance and it doesn't deal with the rosy picture of romance and everything. So, love in the online times of online dating deals with the harsh reality of modern love. Some of the stories will definitely give you a glimpse of the rosy picture of love that we all hear and we see in the Shah Rukh Khan films and everything. But then some of the stories will tell you the harsh reality, what is happening in today's world, how people are getting cheated online, what is the scenario like, how people are actually finding love online. So everything that you can put under the theme of modern love, you'll find it in here. So some of the stories, like I said, are very rosy, very romantic. People will find their true love, but then some of the stories will show you the harsh, where you'll see sadness, pain, unhappiness,
Right.
disappointment, and everything. So it's a blend of both the things.
All right.
And
So
it's a
it's
very millennial thing. I thought the youth definitely is going to relate to all of the stories.
Absolutely, yeah. I really think that everybody, especially the young people today, would definitely find this very relatable. And this is something that even if they haven't experienced, they would have heard it in their friends group, or
Yes.
they on an online date, or they must have encountered an experience somewhat. So I know that personally, I know that this is a very interesting title and a very interesting topic, as well as the book cover is gorgeous, I need to say.
It's absolutely, everybody loved it. In my
Yeah,
family, all my friends, even the co-authors, they loved it.
it's such a
So
beautiful,
the book cover, yeah, it's very beautiful and it's very nice, very striking,
yeah, and the color and the illustrations even
vibrant.
match absolutely perfectly with the theme of the book. And it's
Yes,
one of sadly I don't have the hard copy here, but I
I
have.
have it. So
Oh, you do? Oh, great.
yeah.
So it's a very interesting one. If you enjoy romance, a little bit of mix, like I said, today's books that we have today in the lineup are not usual books. They are very interesting ones, very unique ones. And some of the stories, like Priyanka just mentioned in the previous session, they're worth getting into a short movie. So they're like that interesting and that intriguing.
I
So,
know.
right.
Well, just like to add something here, it's not just for the youth, but also for the elderly because it will show them the harsh reality of modern love today and what is actually happening in the world. Because what they've heard and what they've seen in their, times and generation, it is completely different from what we experience today. So love has completely evolved and it has completely changed. And this book will tell you the reality.
I absolutely can understand your perspective here because, to be honest, a lot of people who are in their mid 40s or 50s as well, I know that they would also enjoy it also because it's a very different outlook for them.
Different, yes.
Time maybe they wouldn't have even imagined that something like this would have come up. So that is why I think that it's a great read for pretty much everyone.
I know.
So
I recall one of my friends telling me that her mother enjoyed it more than her because she was like, okay, this is what is happening today. Okay. So yeah, it's for both, both for
uh,
the elderly as well as for the youth.
right. All right. So let's get into the reading and we'll discuss a
Oh,
little more later as soon as I finish the reading. So I'm just going to
yes,
not read the whole thing, but pretty much most of the elements I would like to cover. So the title is One Day, Two Days. It's by Ishika Jain, who you must have also seen as a part of our podcast. So
yes.
she has come up with this beautiful story, which I'd like to read right now. And the character here we're going to talk about is also very interesting. So stay on. So Austin didn't like it at all. And he made sure that Scarlett was aware of it. Austin, she sighed as she put on some concealer. Why are you making such a big deal out of this? Because it is dangerous, unsafe, stupid. And did I mention dangerous? He exasperated. He was a firm believer of the fact that if he continued repeating the same thing every minute, it would somehow drill itself into Scarlett's brain, and ultimately the dread date will be prevented. Yes, about 1,000,000 times now, she deadpanned, as she turned and gave him a look. Doesn't mean it isn't true. He was losing it, and he knew it. He mentally cursed that online dating app, whichever one Scarlett had been using for the past 1 month. That stupid, idiotic app that had made Scarlett a phone addict and had collided her path with some moron online. He was trying to sweep the fact that he had feelings for her under the rug by acting like an overprotective best friend. He had hoped that through that pretension, he could even manage to convince himself that it was nothing, but it was clear as day he was doing a piss-poor job of it. Scarlett's gaze softened as she looked at her best friend. She closed the steps separating them both and sat on her bed beside Austin. Look, I know you are worried, and I would be too if the roles were reversed. She started as she took his hand in hers. Austin's heart involuntarily picked up its pace. But trust me, when I tell you that this guy, he is just amazing. He is everything I want in a boyfriend. She had a dream-like look on her face as she told him that this and one second, sorry, I just lost that line. She had a dream-like look on her face as she told him this, and he covered his pained expression with a well-rehearsed smile. I get it, Scar, he murmured, and she looked him in the eye. Just, I don't know, I guess it's fine, he relented. And how could he not? Looking at her as her eyes shined bright with hope, he just had to give in to her wishes. God, she had no idea of the effect she had on him. Scarlett beamed and threw her arms around him, holding tight as she slightly swayed them. Austin's arms hung limp on his sides. He knew if he wrapped them around her, there was no way he could have let her go anytime soon. Thank you, she mumbled against the crook of his neck, and he pulled back. Deciding he might as well kill the silence and the pain in his chest, he asked her just as she started dabbing blush on her cheeks. She had never worn this much amount of makeup before, and even though it was making her look beautiful, he preferred her without it. Where are you guys going anyway? As if he had told her about a Macy's sale, which she loved, she brightened up. Oh, he is taking me to the Stellars, she gushed, and he raised his eyebrows. That posh restaurant on the outskirts of town? He confirmed, and she nodded. But I thought you guys were... He stammered in utter confusion, and she interrupted him. Yes, I know. I wanted that too, but Stella's isn't bad, is it? She asked him with a smile, and he didn't bother to give her a reply. Scarlett had stumbled upon a guy named Luca, a Latino, on that online dating app. In the beginning, she had joked off with Austin, saying how fun it was to flirt with people online and then break their hearts. Austin used to have a good laugh at that, and sometimes he would even sit with her while she flirted with different guys at the same time, just for fun. But it had all changed 2 weeks earlier when she started talking to a guy named Luca online who had a shirtless mirror selfie as his profile picture, and the mobile covered his face, so it wasn't very visible. And contrary to Scarlett's beliefs, Austin was convinced that he was an ugly piece of shit. Of course, it was his personal reason to think and assume that. But hey, no one could be sure. Anyways, Luca had managed to charm Scarlett in his own way. She had, of course, flirted with him, as she did with the other guys, but unlike the other responses, Luca had been so humble throughout the chat. It had intrigued Scarlett, who was a sheer flirt by heart, and Luca was probably the first one who hadn't fallen into the trap of her suggestive words. Another thing about Scarlett was that she was a nerd and never had a boyfriend till date, even though she was 17 already. So seeing her like this was totally new for Austen. Austen, however, wasn't a nerd, but he never had a girlfriend either, mainly because he was in love with Scarlett. Just 2 weeks of text, and here Scarlett was getting ready for her first date with a guy she didn't even know. Well, at least according to Austen, because Scarlett was convinced both of them were made for each other and knew everything about each other. The fact didn't sit very well with Austen, because if they did know each other that well, then Luca should know that ever since Scarlett was 12, she had dreamed of going to a drive-in theater for her first date and watching one day her favorite movie. He didn't trust Luca. Even though Scarlett had basically declared that it was safe, Austen wasn't going to be naive. He knew what could happen. She had never met the guy. He could be a rapist for all they knew. And even if he wasn't, where was the guarantee that Luca wouldn't manipulate his innocent Scar into sleeping with him? What if he forced his lips on her and stole her first kiss tonight? Austen's blood boiled at that thought. He would kill that son of a bitch if he did something bad to Scarlett. But as fate had decided, he didn't have to do anything of that sort. Not tonight. Because as it turns out, Scarlett had called Austen halfway through her date. She had been hiding in the bathroom, trying to keep her tears at bay as she phoned her best friend and asked him to get her. He was shamelessly flirting with our waitress, she hiccuped as she got in Austen's car after sneaking through the back. So I'm going to leave it there. There's a little part left, but you guys can check the book out and read that, because it's a very nice one. It's a very interesting one, and I really like how the ending played out. So I think it's best if you guys read it. But it's a great story, and I love how she's very beautifully brought out the characters in the book, right? Especially Scarlett, and the way that
the gentry factor. Yeah.
Yeah, you have this picture in your head that maybe initially I had like a picture, maybe that's her brother, and she's like just getting dressed, and she's pretty old, and then slowly okay, I was like, okay, now this guy's in love
The
with her,
build up, yes.
a little older, and then suddenly she's 17, and I mean there's a lot of different turns that the story takes, which is quite interesting.
Yes,
Shubha,
yes.
hi. Shubhayan, you should definitely check the book out. It's a very nice one, and it has a lot of other stories that are related to it, and it's a beautiful one, and I personally feel like it's one of the best ones, which you could turn out into a small YouTube video or a book.
Definitely. Short story.
Yes, absolutely. So tell me a little more about the editing journey. When you were reading these stories, how did you filter them out? Like, what were the first thoughts in your mind when you were picking these stories out?
Well, firstly, I'd like to say that we have a lot of talent out there, let me tell you. I mean, I was really in a fix which story to select and which to, reject, because it was tough. Let me tell you, it was tough. We have a lot of talent out there. People have a lot of talent. They're just looking for a little bit of, push and for a good opportunity to get their stuff published. And thanks to you guys, they're able to do that now. So Ink Feathers is really helping us budding, authors to reach their goals and pursue their passions. So a lot of talent out there, a lot of good people, a lot of good stories, and I got to know a lot of people who from different countries, I must say, because my book, I had approached people all over the globe. So I have an author from the US, I have an author from Denmark. I have an author from somewhere in Gujarat in India. So I got to interact with a lot of people. There was a lot of interaction. I got to know a lot of people. I'm in touch with some of them still, and lovely, lovely time editing and going through the whole journey.
Nice. It's lovely to hear experiences like this also, because it's interesting to sort of know the editor's backstory, because a book is just a product that you see in your hand, and you don't really have the idea of what kind of work goes behind just getting that one particular book out. It's a lot of trouble, it's a lot of hard work, But at the end of the day, it feels worth it, especially when you have stories like this,
Definitely.
you know, and all.
Definitely.
And I mean, it turns out to be an amazing book, right? So I'm really glad that I got the chance to sort of read that particular book. I had picked it up for especially for this live session, and I went through a lot of stories, you know, thinking which one to pick. But I ended up on this one, which was a very nice one. So thank you so much for joining in, Priyanka. It was lovely talking to you and chatting with you.
Same here. Same here. Thank you so much for inviting me, and it was lovely talking to you.
Thank you.
And I'm so glad to have come in touch with Ink Feathers, and I'm glad to be a part of this family. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Priyanka. I'll see you soon again sometime on another live. Thank you.
Definitely.
Bye
Okay.
bye.
Bye bye.
All right, guys. So that was our second book, Love in the Times of Online Dating, one of the most interesting books that I have read. You should definitely check it out. It's on Amazon. It's on the Ink Feathers bookstore as well. And you'll get to, it's a great book if you just want something different. If you want to take a break from the usual stuff that you're reading, it's a great book in terms of that. So thank you so much, everybody, for listening to this particular story. And thank you, Priyanka, for joining in as well. We'll be moving to the next story that we have over here is the next book as well that I'm going to just give me a second and I will tell you the book's name. It is The Marital Games, one of the best-selling books from Ink Feathers. It is a very different one. However, it's not all romantic, but it as the name suggests, it's all marital games, and it's a very nice read for pretty much